So at the weekend, I did a very hilly half marathon, Eyam half marathon, and I loved it. That's the first thing I want to say. But the reason I'm making this video is I realised as I was doing my training for the half marathon, that I was subconsciously using a lot of exercise psychology strategies. And that actually I started to see there was real parallels between training for a half marathon and the weight management process, and basically any kind of hard thing we do in life. So I want to share with you today 6 actually fairly simple exercise psychology strategies that really helped me with my half marathon training and will help you do whatever the hard thing is you're trying to do. It will help you stay motivated, help you achieve your goals, but also enjoy the process. I'm Dr. Paula Watson. I'm a Liverpool-based psychologist specialising in weight, disordered eating and exercise. So on my channel I share psychological tips and I help you get to the bottom of why it is you're struggling. So let's think about these 6 exercise psychology techniques I was using. The first one is really key for any kind of process we're going through or if we're trying to do hard things. So for motivation, we need to be clear about our purpose and know why we're doing it and remind ourselves of this purpose. So for me with the half marathon, this time it really was about enjoying it. Because I entered this half marathon, I don't know why, I'd seen a YouTube video on it and the views looked beautiful. It looked a real challenge because it's incredibly hilly. But I just wanted to go on the day and be able to enjoy it. I've had experiences in the past where I've done half marathons and I really love a running event. I love the buzz of it, everything. But there was one I did and I started getting a bit of knee problems and I kept going. I didn't listen to my body. I was chasing a time and I ended up having an injury that kept me out of proper training for a few months. And I thought, don't want to do that. I really want to be able to enjoy the day. So that was my first thing, to remind myself to be clear about my purpose and remind myself of my purpose. My second thing was to set myself some goals. Now, there's a sports psychology technique actually that I borrowed here, where we can set ourselves A, B, and C goals. So our A goal will be like the ideal thing, I'd absolutely love to reach that goal. So with a running event, kind of set time goals. So my A goal was 2 hours, under 2 hours, 5 minutes, I think I'd set as my A goal. Possibly manageable, but it would have to be a really good day. B goal is something that's maybe achievable and you'll still be really made up if you get it, but it's a bit more achievable than that A goal. So for me, I set that as 2 hours 15 in my mind. I kind of worked out how likely I was to be able to run certain paces and what that would come to. My C goal, which for any running event, I always set my C goal as just to be able to finish. So you take away all the parameters, all the pressure, and it's about finishing it. So if you were to apply this to weight management, for instance, first of all, I wouldn't suggest you set goals around weight. You might want to watch my ideal weight video if you want to learn more about that. But we want to keep our goals controllable. So if you were setting goals around weight management, which essentially, as you'll know, if you've watched my other videos, is about the lifestyle, putting the lifestyle change first, you might set a goal, for instance, around your exercise behaviour. Perhaps your A goal is I want to be able to go to the gym 3 times a week. Perhaps your B goal would be, well, I want to get there at least twice. And perhaps your C goal would be, well, it needs to be something that's quite doable. Perhaps it's okay, my baseline is if I get there at least once a week. My third strategy then was to have a mantra to help me remember this purpose and these goals. We might call it using keywords or self-talk, but the mantra I chose for my half marathon was strong and steady. It was about how I really wanted to feel on the day, that I think. I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to stay steady enough that I could finish strong and enjoy the process. So I would often say this to myself when I was running. If I was kind of tempted to, I don't know, maybe I was really tempted one day to push it a bit too much in training, I'd use that mantra, strong and steady, to keep myself paced. And even saying that to myself would help me feel a bit stronger. The fourth one then is sticking to your plan and having the confidence to stick to your plan, even if everyone else around you is doing different. And this one's really relevant for weight management. I speak to my clients a lot about this. But in the context of what's a really good example to start with to know what I mean here. If you haven't watched it before, go and look up Kelly Holmes' 800 metre and 1500 metre finals in the Athens 2004 Olympics. What Kelly Holmes did was remarkable, and if you read her book, you can hear her strategy about this. But essentially, she had a game plan, she stuck to it, and if you see in those finals, she was at the back. She had to ignore what everyone else was doing. She was at the back, but she kept going. She kept trusting her process and believing in herself, and she won 2 gold medals. It's really quite emotional watching those races, even watching them. I watched it in preparing this video again, and even though I knew what was going to happen, you can't help welling up. And what I was trying to do is exactly the same in my half marathon training. Okay, I was nowhere near where Kelly Holmes was, but I started out the half marathon. I knew that my quest was to enjoy the day. Okay, there's a hill right at the beginning of Eyam half marathon, and it's like this. So as I started going up this, and I'm relatively fit, or I thought I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to run right up this hill if I want to keep going. And I decided to switch to a jeffing technique, Jeff Galloway's method. So I can make another video about jeffing if you want, because it's something that I spend a lot of time talking about. But essentially, it's combining running and walking. So I switched to, in my head, I was counting 20 seconds run, 30 seconds walk up these steep hills. And it changed the game entirely. It meant I didn't dread the hills, it made them enjoyable. But what happened then was everyone running around me started saying, oh, come on. You know, they were basically saying, don't give up yet, because it was right at the beginning, get running again. And I was like, I'm purposefully walking. I want to save myself. I know there's a massive hill coming at mile 9, and I want to be able to do it. So then quietly smug to myself when I was then beating them later. But that was it, because I stuck to my plan, and I was able to achieve my goals of keeping it enjoyable. The fifth thing then is about listening to your body and listening to your needs. In any hard thing you do, particularly if you're training for an exercise event, if you're trying to change your eating behaviours over the long term, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be hard days. There's going to be days when you get ill, when your child gets ill. You might be injured. You might have a lot of stress or commitments on. You need to listen to your body at those times and be flexible. And examples from my half marathon training here were, well, the biggest example was probably about 2 weeks out. I think I sprained my toe at jiu-jitsu. This is the problem when you do more than one sport. Sprained my toe at jiu-jitsu, and I knew I needed to rest that if I wanted to actually be able to do the half marathon and enjoy it. So I took some extra, I adapted my training plan, I took some extra rest days, I adjusted my goals if I wasn't going to be able to make the times I hoped. And it was so important I did that, because that's what allowed me to keep persevering. And then the final 6th strategy, and this is something that a client shared with me actually. I think they'd seen it on an Instagram post. But the idea of reframing, when times get tough, and if you feel you're struggling for the motivation of something, you might find yourself saying, oh, I've got to do this, I have to do this. I'm asking you to reframe, I've got to, and say, I get to do this instead. And I find that I'm able to do this a lot with movement, because I love movement. My company's called Made Up to Move because of how it makes me feel. And I honestly feel it's such a privilege to be able to walk, to be able to run, to be able to move my body. And that was constantly in my mind. When I was doing that half marathon, the views were magnificent. So I can fully recommend Eyam half marathon, by the way, if you're in the UK, because the views were magnificent. The running downhill, and even my running uphill, I just felt such a privilege to be able to be doing that. So all those things I've talked about, so knowing your purpose, having A, B, and C goals, having a short, snappy mantra that you can remember, sticking to your plan regardless of what anyone else is doing around you, listening to your body and your needs, and being flexible and kind to yourself when you need to, and reminding yourself that you get to do this. You don't got to do this. I hope that's helpful, and I hope you can see how you can apply those exercise psychology strategies to any hard thing you're doing in life. So it might be the weight management process, it might be changing your eating behaviours, it might be learning a new skill, or anything where you need to persevere. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video helpful, and please comment below to let me know how you get on with trying out these strategies. And in case you're wondering, I did reach my B goal, so 2 hours and 9 minutes.